Did Pilate write to Tiberius Caesar about Jesus? And did this report include a secret meeting with Jesus not included in the Gospels? Did it also include a prophecy that Jesus gave Pilate prior to his arrest and trial? That's what we're talking about today, and we're starting right now. This is part 2 of a series that examines the report written by Pilate about Jesus, his trial, crucifixion, and his resurrection. As we mentioned in part 1 of this series, this report is included in several of the apocryphal books of the 1st and 3rd centuries, and it appears that a true report from Pilate likely existed. We suggest you view part 1 as we give our thoughts on the validity of this report, as well as the opinion of various church fathers. You can click in the upper right corner of the screen right now to view that segment first. But in this follow-up segment, we will look at the supposed secret meeting between Pilate and Jesus from Pilate's own words that took place sometime prior to Jesus' arrest. And I will give ideas on what I think about this report as we go on. Now let's see what Pilate had to say. In our last episode, Pilate was highly concerned about the ongoing disagreements between Jesus and the Jewish leaders. And desiring to keep the peace and protect Jesus, Pilate arranged this secret meeting. He wrote, "I wrote to Jesus requesting an interview with him at the Praetorium. You know that in my veins flows the Spanish, mixed with the Roman blood, as incapable of fear as it is of puerile emotion. When the Nazarene made his appearance, I was walking in my basilica, and my feet seemed fastened with like an iron hand to the marble pavement, and I trembled in every limb as a guilty culprit. Though he was calm, the Nazarene, calm as innocence. When he came up to me, he stopped. And by a signal sign, he seemed to say to me, 'I'm here.' For some time, I contemplated with admiration and awe this extraordinary type of man, a type of man unknown to our numerous painters who have given form and figure to all the gods and heroes. 'Jesus,' I said to him at last, my tongue faltered, 'Jesus of Nazareth, I have granted you for the last 3 years ample freedom of speech, nor do I regret it.'" Notice that Pilate seems to have been aware of Jesus for 3 years according to this historical record. I know there is great debate in the church about how long Jesus' ministry was, but it seems to indicate that it was a little over 3 years. Even if this document has additions to it, it's likely this part was accurate. Now, back to Pilate. "Your words are those of a sage. I know not whether you have read Socrates or Plato, but I know this, that there is in your discourses a majestic simplicity that elevates you far above these other philosophers. The emperor is informed of it, and I, his humble representative in this country, am glad of having allowed you that liberty of which you are so worthy. However, I must not conceal from you that your discourses have raised up against you powerful and inveterate enemies. Neither is this surprising. Socrates had his enemies, and he fell a victim of their hatred. Yours are doubly incensed against you on account of your sayings against them, and on account of the liberty extended toward you. They even accused me of being indirectly leagued with you, for the purpose of depriving the Hebrews of a little civil power which Rome has left them. My request, I do not say my order, is that you be more circumspect in the future and more tender in arousing the pride of your enemies, lest they raise against you the stupid populace, and compel me to employ the instruments of justice." Okay, time for another reality check. There is in this section of the discourse an element of a true politician. Pilate first praises Jesus, then he gets around to the more difficult true meaning of the meeting. This part of the discourse seems to ring very, very true to me, and would be unlikely to be added or embellished, especially because this meeting is not found in the Gospels. Someone who fabricated this would unlikely add a meeting like this. So let's get back to Pilate. The Nazarene calmly replied, "Prince of the earth, your words proceed not from true wisdom. Say to the torrent, stop in the midst of the mountain home, because it will uproot the trees of the valley. The torrent will answer you that it must obey the laws of the Creator. God alone knows whither flows the torrent. Verily I say to you, before the rose of Sharon blossoms, the blood of the just shall be spilt." Just as with Pilate's discourse, this answer, which is attributed to Jesus, carries some very Jesus-like aspects. Calling the Roman procurator Prince of the Earth is just like Jesus, who of course is the Prince of Heaven, and giving an analogy of a raging stream straight out of nature is another commonly used technique in Jesus' teaching. Yet, this one is not found in the Gospels, so it's less likely to have been creatively added. Also, did you notice Jesus includes a prophecy of his upcoming death and gives a biblical allusion that Pilate surely missed? "I am the rose of Sharon, a lily of the valleys," from Song of Solomon 2:1. Pilate, just like the disciples, didn't want to hear about Jesus dying. "Your blood shall not be spilt," replied I with emotion. "You are more precious in my estimation on account of your wisdom than all the turbulent and proud Pharisees who abuse the freedom granted them by the Romans, conspire against Caesar, and construe our bounty into fear. Insolent wretches! They are not aware that the wolf of the Tiber sometimes clothes himself with the skin of sheep. I will protect you against them. My praetorium is open to you as an asylum. It is a sacred asylum." Jesus carelessly shook his head and said with a grace and a divine smile, "When the day shall have come, there will be no asylum for the Son of Man, neither in the earth nor under the earth. The asylum of the just is there," pointing to the heavens. "That which is written in the books of the prophets must be accomplished." "Young man," I answered mildly, "you oblige me to convert my request into an order. The safety of the province, which has been confided to my care, requires it. You must observe more moderation in your discourses. Do not infringe. My orders you know. May happiness attend you. Farewell." This also rings so true to me of how a politician like Pilate might have handled this situation. First, making a request, and then ultimately ordering Jesus to tone down the discourses and carefully explaining that the peace of the whole region depended on it. Although I believe there were additions to this document by Christians, the core parts like this just seem very accurate to me. Now, before we give you Jesus' answer to Pilate, why don't you take a second to subscribe to this channel so you can see more amazing discourses like this in the future. "Prince of the earth," replied Jesus, "I come not to bring war into the world, but peace, love, and charity. I was born on the same day on which Augustus Caesar gave peace to the Roman Empire." Whoa, did you hear that? Again, we need to stop right here. Did Jesus just say he was born on the day Augustus Caesar gave peace to the Roman world? What day was that? Well, first we need to understand that this is not a biblical account and is simply interesting, not necessarily factual. Now, Augustus was given his ultimate title, Father of the Country, or Pater Patria, on February 5th, 2 BC. That could have been it. But if you have other ideas what day Augustus gave peace to the Roman world, please let us know in the comments. Now, Jesus continued. Persecution proceeds not from me. I expect it from others, and will meet it in obedience to the will of my Father, who has shown me the way. Restrain therefore your worldly prudence. It is not in your power to arrest the victim at the foot of a tabernacle of expiation." So saying, he disappeared like a bright shadow behind the curtain of the basilica. I think the phrase tabernacle of expiation is a fascinating phrase. Expiation means making amends for wrongdoing. Exactly what Jesus would accomplish on the cross. This rings so true of what might possibly have been said. Pilate then details a meeting between himself and Herod prior to Passover week. To Herod, who then reigned in Galilee, the enemies of Jesus addressed themselves to wreak their vengeance on the Nazarene. Had Herod consulted his own inclination, he would have ordered Jesus immediately be put to death. But though proud of his royal dignity, yet he was afraid of committing an act that might diminish his influence with the Senate. Herod called on me one day at the Praetorium, and on rising to take leave, after some insignificant conversation, he asked me what my opinion was concerning the Nazarene. I replied that Jesus appeared to be one of the great philosophers that great nations sometimes produce, and that his doctrines are by no means sacrilegious, and that the intention of Rome was to leave him to that freedom of speech, which was justified by his actions. Herod smiled maliciously, and saluting me with an ironic respect, he departed. After this, Pilate began to explain his view of the trial, the crucifixion of Jesus, and later the resurrection. Click right here to keep watching and learn Pilate's description of the horrible darkness, the earthquake, and the first-hand accounts of the soldiers who witnessed the resurrection. It's pretty miraculous. Till then, this is Nelson, and I'll see you there.